The observation deck was silent except for the hum of the ship's engines and the soft rasp of claws on metal. Captain Jenna Cortez pressed her palm against the viewing port, watching debris from the destroyed colony spin past in the void. Behind her, something moved in the shadows. She turned slowly. The creature sat in the corner farthest from the door, massive shoulders hunched, her arms wrapped tight around scaled knees. Its eyes, 3 of them, arranged in a triangle on its elongated skull, tracked Jenna's every breath. The Corvathi warrior hadn't moved from that spot in 6 hours. Hadn't eaten. Hadn't spoken. The entire crew gave the observation deck a wide berth now. Jenna had read the file. Zaratha, daughter of the matriarch of the Fifth Fleet, sole survivor of the corvette that had tried to evacuate the colony before the plague bombs hit. She killed 4 of her own crew when they tried to restrain her during the rescue. The medics sedated her eventually, but she woke fighting. Broke a reinforced containment field with her bare hands. It took Admiral Park's direct intervention to stop security from spacing her. Now she was here. Alone. Deadly. And the human ship's command staff was debating what to do with a Corvathi royal who'd lost everything and might lose herself to grief madness at any moment. Jenna walked forward. Not directly towards Zaratha. That would be a challenge. She moved at an angle, crossing to the opposite corner where a maintenance panel jutted from the wall. She sat down on the cold deck plating, legs crossed, and pulled a ration bar from her pocket. Zaratha's middle eye narrowed. The upper and lower ones remained fixed on Jenna's hands. "I'm not here to talk at you," Jenna said quietly. She unwrapped the bar. "I'm not here to tell you it'll be okay, because we both know that's shit." One of Zaratha's claws scraped the deck. A warning sound. Jenna took a bite of the bar. Tasteless protein paste. She chewed slowly, looking out at the stars instead of at the warrior. "My ship was called the Meridian. Exploration vessel. We were mapping a nebula when the Kresh attacked. They don't take prisoners, so we ran." She paused. "We didn't all make it to the pods." The scraping stopped. "I was the communications officer. I heard every voice on the comms as the sections depressurized. Heard my friend Marcus in engineering. Heard my girlfriend Claire from medical. They knew they weren't getting out." Jenna's voice stayed level. "I was in the escape pod when the ship broke apart. I watched the pieces scatter. Watched the Kresh pick through the wreckage for salvage." Zaratha's claws slowly uncurled from around her knees. "The rescue ship found me 4 days later. I didn't speak for a week. When I did, I told them I wanted to transfer to a warship. They said no. Said I needed therapy first, recovery time, evaluation." Jenna finished the ration bar, crumpled the wrapper. "I told them to go to hell. Went back to duty on a cargo hauler instead. Worked my way up. Got my command certification. Now I'm captain of a medical transport, which is about as far from a warship as you can get." She glanced at Zaratha. The warrior was watching her now with all 3 eyes. "You know what I learned?" Jenna asked. "Revenge doesn't fix it. Neither does dying. Neither does sitting in a corner waiting for someone to decide your fate." Zaratha's mandibles clicked together, a Corvathi expression of contempt. "You know nothing of Corvathi honor. I know your colony is gone," Jenna said. "I know your crew is dead. I know you're sitting on a human ship surrounded by aliens who don't understand why you haven't challenged anyone to single combat yet." She stood up slowly. "And I know that if you wanted to die, you would have done it already." The warrior rose in one fluid motion, towering over Jenna by more than a meter. Her 4 arms spread wide, claws extended. "You dare speak of what I want? I dare sit with you," Jenna said. "Everyone else is afraid. They see a killer. They see a princess gone mad with grief. They see a problem that needs a solution. She held Zaratha's gaze. I see someone who survived when they wished they hadn't. Zaratha's claws trembled. Her mandibles worked soundlessly. My commander's going to ask me for a report, Jenna continued. She'll want to know if you're stable, if you're a threat, if we should keep you sedated until we reach the Korvathi embassy. She crossed her arms. What should I tell her? Tell her, Zaratha rasped, that Zaratha of the Fifth Fleet requests asylum. The words came slowly, as if dragged from deep within. Tell her that I wish to speak with the matriarch of my people. Tell her. The warrior's voice cracked. Tell her that I am not ready to die. Jenna nodded once. I'll tell her. She turned to leave, then stopped at the door. There's a memorial garden on deck 7. Human tradition. We plant something for the ones we've lost. If you want, I'll show you. Zaratha sank back down to the deck, but her posture had changed. Less collapsed, more contained. Why would you do this? Because someone sat with me once, Jenna said. In a cargo bay on a ship full of strangers. He didn't say much. Just sat there. Made it so I wasn't alone. She looked back at the warrior. His name was Chen. He died 3 years later in a reactor breach. Saved everyone else on the ship. She smiled faintly. I planted a cherry tree for him. The door slid shut behind her. Commander Davis waited in the corridor, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Well? Davis asked. She wants asylum, Jenna reported. She wants to contact her matriarch. And she's not going to hurt anyone. You're sure about that? Jenna thought about the way Zaratha's claws had stopped scraping. The way her voice had broken on the word die. I'm sure. Davis studied her for a long moment. The Admiral's going to want more than your gut feeling, Captain. Then tell her to come sit with Zaratha herself, Jenna said. Because that's what she needs. Not guards. Not sedatives. Not a cell. She met Davis's eyes. Someone willing to sit in the dark with her. The commander's expression softened fractionally. The Korvathi embassy is screaming for us to hand her over. They're calling her compromised. They want her detained until they can determine if she's fit to maintain her rank. She's grieving, Jenna said. Not broken. The Korvathi don't see a difference. Jenna's jaw tightened. Then maybe they should learn. Davis sighed. You're playing with fire, Captain. If she snaps, she won't. You can't know that. No, Jenna agreed. But I can give her a reason not to. The commander was silent for several heartbeats. Then she nodded slowly. You have 24 hours. If she's not stable by then, we sedate her and hand her to the embassy. Clear? Clear. Davis walked away, her boots echoing in the corridor. Jenna looked back at the closed door of the observation deck. Through the small window, she could see Zaratha's silhouette against the stars. Still alone. Still deadly. But no longer waiting to die. The memorial garden occupied a converted cargo bay in the heart of the ship. Artificial sunlight filtered through panels in the ceiling, and the air smelled of earth and growing things. Rows of planters lined the walls, each one containing a tree, a flowering bush, or a cluster of native grasses from a dozen different worlds. Small plaques marked each plant with a name and date. Jenna found Zaratha standing in the center of the room, head tilted back, 3 eyes tracking the light patterns on the ceiling. It's beautiful, the warrior said softly. We have nothing like this on our ships. What do Korvathi do for their dead? Jenna asked. We carve their names into our armor. Zaratha's lower hands moved to the scarred plates covering her chest. Every warrior I fought beside. Every commander I served under. Every, her voice caught. Every member of the crew I failed to save. You didn't fail them. I lived. Zaratha's claws traced the edges of an unmarked section of armor. That is failure enough. Jenna moved to one of the planters and knelt beside a small sapling with silver leaves. The plaque read Chen Zhao, Engineer, ES Meridian. I used to think that too. That survival was a betrayal. She touched the sapling's trunk gently. Took me a long time to understand that living is the harder choice. Zaratha approached slowly, her heavy footsteps muffled by the artificial grass underfoot. Your people honor the dead by creating life. Ours honor them by carrying their memory into battle. She studied the rows of plants, the names etched in metal. I do not know which is wiser. Maybe both, Jenna said. She stood and gestured to an empty planter in the corner. We keep space for new memorials. Anyone on the ship can plant something. Any species, any tradition. The warrior's mandibles worked silently. Her upper arms crossed over her chest, while her lower hands flexed at her sides, a Korvathi gesture of uncertainty. I have no seeds to plant. No knowledge of growing things. That's okay. Jenna walked to a storage locker and pulled out a sealed package. The garden keeper maintains a selection. Different plants for different purposes. She opened the package, revealing several small containers of seeds. This one's a Terran oak. Slow growing, strong. This one's a Lyrian memory flower. Changes color with the seasons. This one, that one. Zaratha pointed with one claw at a container of dark, spiny seeds. What are those? Korvathi thorn trees. Jenna lifted the container carefully. We picked them up at the last trade station. Haven't had anyone plant one yet. Zaratha's 3 eyes widened fractionally. You keep seeds from our world? We keep seeds from every world we can, Jenna said. That's the point. Everyone who serves on a ship in the Alliance, human, Korvathi, Lyrian, Kresh, anyone, they're all far from home. This place reminds us that home still exists. That what we're fighting for is real. The warrior reached out slowly and took the container. Her claws, so deadly in combat, handled the seeds with surprising gentleness. Thorn trees only grow in the red deserts of the first continent. I climbed one as a child. My mother was furious. A sound like grinding stones emerged from her throat. Korvathi laughter. The thorns left scars. She said I was marked by my own foolishness. Show me how to plant it, Jenna said. They worked in silence, filling the empty planter with nutrient-rich soil, pressing the seeds into place at specific depths and intervals. Zaratha's 4 hands moved with practiced precision, and Jenna realized this wasn't the first time the warrior had planted seeds. My clutch sister tends the matriarch's garden, Zaratha said quietly. I would visit her there when the weight of duty became too great. She would put tools in my hands and say nothing. Just let me work the soil until my mind cleared. Her claws stilled. She was on the colony, managing the hydroponics that fed 3,000 souls. Jenna's chest tightened. What was her name? Kirtha. The word was reverent. She was the gentle one. I was the blade. She was the hand that fed our people. We balanced each other. Zaratha pressed the last seed into the soil. When the bombs fell, she would have been underground. The hydroponics were deep, protected. She might have survived the initial blast. But the plague followed, Jenna said softly. Yes. Zaratha covered the seeds with a final layer of soil. Kirtha would have worked until the fever took her. Would have tried to save the plants even as her own body failed. That was her nature. They stood together, looking down at the freshly planted bed. Jenna placed a blank memorial plaque at the base. You should write her name, Jenna said. Human custom says the one who plants speaks the name aloud and marks it in the earth. Zaratha's claws trembled as she picked up the engraving stylus. Korvathi's script was angular, sharp, like the thorns of the trees she'd planted. She carved each symbol with deliberate care, and, when she finished, she pressed her palm flat against the plaque. "Kirtha the sixth clutch," she said, her voice carrying through the garden. "Tender of life. Keeper of the green places. My sister." She paused. "May thorns grow strong in your memory. May they protect those who cannot protect themselves." The lights in the garden flickered, a brief power fluctuation, and, for a moment, the shadows deepened. Then the illumination returned, steady and warm. "The garden keeper says that happens sometimes," Jenna said. "When someone speaks a name with enough conviction, the ship listens." Zaratha looked at her with all three eyes. "You believe your ship has a spirit? I believe everything that carries us through the void has a piece of our souls in it," Jenna replied. "Enough people die protecting a ship, enough people live and love and grieve inside its hull, and maybe it remembers. Maybe it cares." The warrior's mandibles spread slightly, a Korvathi expression of contemplation. "There are old stories, from before we left our homeworld. Stories of the first void ships, how they would sing to the darkness, how the crews would hear voices in the hum of the engines." She touched the plaque again. "My clutch mother called them children's tales. But now you're not sure," Jenna finished. "Now I am alone on an alien ship, speaking to the ghost of my sister through seeds and soil." Zaratha's claws dug into the earth. "Now I question everything I was taught about strength and honor and duty." "Good," Jenna said. "Questions mean you're still alive, still thinking, still capable of growing." Zaratha stood, brushing dirt from her lower hands. "The embassy will not see it that way. They will say I am compromised, that grief has weakened me, that I am no longer fit to bear my mother's name. What do you think?" The warrior was quiet for a long moment. "I think," she said slowly, "that I have been alone for too long. I think that strength without connection is merely violence waiting for a target. I think," she looked at Jenna, "I think that if a human can sit with a Korvathi warrior and show her how to plant seeds, perhaps the universe is not as rigid as I believed." Footsteps echoed from the corridor outside. Commander Davis appeared in the doorway, her expression grave. "Captain Cortez, we have a situation." Jenna's stomach dropped. "What kind of situation?" "The Korvathi embassy just transmitted a formal demand. They want Zaratha handed over immediately. They're threatening to board us if we refuse." Davis glanced at Zaratha. "They've declared her a threat to the matriarchy. They're sending royal arbiters to take her into custody." Zaratha's entire body went rigid. "Arbiters? You know what that means?" Jenna asked. "It means they have already decided I am unworthy," Zaratha said, her voice hollow. "Arbiters do not question. They do not negotiate. They execute the will of the matriarch." She looked down at her four hands, at the dirt still clinging to her claws. "They will not let me plant any more trees." "Then we don't let them take you," Jenna said. Davis's eyes widened. "Captain, we can't start a diplomatic incident over what?" Jenna interrupted. "Over a warrior who survived an atrocity and is processing grief in a way her own people don't understand? Over someone who hasn't broken any laws, hasn't hurt anyone on this ship, and just wants to mourn her dead in peace?" "The matriarchy has jurisdiction," Davis said. "She's their citizen, their royal family. We have no legal grounds to refuse." "What about asylum?" Jenna turned to Zaratha. "You requested asylum. That's a formal declaration. Under alliance law, we have to process it before any extradition can occur." Davis shook her head. "Asylum requests take weeks to process. The arbiters will be here in 6 hours. Then we stall them," Jenna said. "How?" Jenna thought fast. The Korvathi respect strength and protocol above all else. If we surrender Zaratha without resistance, we look weak. But if we invoke formal asylum procedures, cite alliance regulations, and make them go through proper channels. She looked at Davis. They'll have to respect the process. They have no choice. Unless they decide we're violating treaty terms by harboring a fugitive. Davis countered. Then they can take her by force, and there's nothing the Alliance will do to stop them. Zaratha stepped forward. No. Both humans looked at her. I will not let you risk yourselves for me, the warrior said. I will not let you risk your ship, your crew, your careers. She straightened to her full height, and suddenly she looked every bit the royal princess she was. I will face the arbiters. I will accept their judgment. Like hell you will, Jenna said. You didn't survive that colony to let them execute you for grieving. It is the Korvathi way. Then, the Korvathi way is wrong. The words hung in the air like a blade. Davis sucked in a sharp breath. Zaratha's 3 eyes locked onto Jenna, and, for a moment, the captain thought she'd gone too far. Then, Zaratha's mandibles spread in what might have been a smile. You are either the bravest human I have ever met, she said, or the most foolish. Both, Jenna said. Definitely both. She turned to Davis. Buy us time. Invoke every regulation, every procedure, every bureaucratic delay in the book. I'm going to contact Admiral Park. The Admiral's en route to Proxima Station, Davis said. She won't reach us for 3 days. Then, we hold for 3 days. Captain, the arbiters are bound by law just like everyone else, Jenna finished. They can posture all they want, but if we invoke asylum protocols correctly, they have to wait for adjudication. And if Admiral Park orders them to stand down, they'll have to comply. She's got enough pull to make this happen. Davis looked between Jenna and Zaratha. You're betting a lot on the Admiral backing your play. I'm betting that Park didn't rise to Admiral by letting warriors die for following their conscience, Jenna said. She met Zaratha's gaze. And I'm betting that you're worth fighting for. The warrior's claws flexed. I do not understand you, human. You risk much for someone you met hours ago. You sat with me in that observation deck, Jenna said. You could have killed me. Could have broken out, stolen a shuttle, gone out in a blaze of fury like everyone expected. But you didn't. You listened. You came to the garden. You planted seeds. She gestured to the fresh plaque, to Karatha's name carved in angular script. You chose to grow something instead of destroy something. That's worth fighting for. Zaratha was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly she knelt, a gesture of profound respect in Korvathi culture. I swear on the thorns of the tree I have planted that I will not flee. I will not bring harm to this ship or its crew. And if the arbiters come... She looked up, her 3 eyes blazing with fierce determination. I will stand before them as Zaratha of the 5th Fleet, daughter of the matriarch, warrior, and survivor. And I will not bow to those who mistake grief for weakness. Jenna extended her hand. Then we stand together. Zaratha took the offered hand with her upper right. Her grip was gentle despite the strength in her claws. Together, she echoed. Davis watched this exchange with an expression somewhere between admiration and exasperation. The Admiral's going to have both our heads for this. Probably. Jenna agreed. Better send that message before I lose my nerve. The commander pulled out her comm unit and started composing. Jenna turned back to Zaratha, who was still kneeling by the memorial planter, one claw tracing the edge of Karatha's plaque. What happens if they take me anyway? The warrior asked quietly. They won't, Jenna said with more confidence than she felt. But if they do? Jenna thought about the escape pod. About 4 days alone in the void. About the moment she decided to keep living instead of letting the cold take her. Then, we make sure they know exactly what they're doing. We make sure your voice is heard. We make sure Karatha's name, and the names of everyone on that colony, are remembered. She crouched beside Zaratha. And we make sure that when the thorn tree grows, it grows strong enough to protect the next person who needs shelter. Zaratha's mandibles clicked together softly, a sound of acknowledgement. You speak like a warrior. I speak like someone who refuses to be alone in the dark, Jenna said. And I refuse to let you be alone either. The lights in the garden flickered again, and somewhere deep in the ship's hull, the engines hummed a note that sounded almost like approval. 6 hours until the arbiters arrived. 6 hours to save a warrior who had chosen to plant seeds instead of sharpen her claws. 6 hours to prove that sitting with someone in their darkness was the bravest thing any soldier could do. Jenna stood and offered her hand again. Come on! We've got work to do. Zaratha took the hand and rose to her full towering height. What kind of work? The kind that makes sure when the arbiters get here, they find a princess who knows exactly who she is and what she's worth. Jenna smiled. And the kind that reminds them that humans are very, very stubborn about protecting their crew. I am not crew. You are now, Jenna said. The moment you planted that tree, you became part of this ship. And we don't abandon our own. They walked toward the exit together, human and Korvathi, captain and warrior. Behind them, the memorial garden hummed with life, dozens of species of plants growing side by side, each one a testament to someone who had crossed the void and touched the hearts of those they left behind. And in the corner, still fresh in the soil, the seeds of a thorn tree waited to grow. The bridge was controlled chaos when Jenna arrived. Ensign Marsh worked frantically at communications, Davis barked orders to the helm, and Lieutenant Coe monitored tactical readouts with the intensity of a predator watching prey. Status, Jenna demanded, striding to the command chair. Korvathi vessel just dropped out of FTL, Coe reported. Cruiser class. They're hailing us with override authority codes. Ignore the override, Jenna said. Put them through standard diplomatic channels. Captain, override authority means, I know what it means, Jenna interrupted. But this is an Alliance vessel under Alliance command. They want to talk. They follow Alliance protocols. Davis shot her a look that said you're really doing this, but moved to implement the order. A moment later, the view screen flickered to life. The Korvathi arbiter was massive even by her species standards, her armor ornate with age and rank. 3 scars crossed her skull, marks of formal duels survived. Her 4 arms were arranged in a posture of absolute authority, and her 3 eyes gleamed with cold purpose. This is Arbiter Vectora of the Royal Court. You are harboring Zaratha, Princess of the Fifth Fleet, who stands accused of dishonor and compromise. Surrender her immediately or face charges of obstruction. This is Captain Jenna Cortez of the Alliance Medical Vessel Sanctuary, Jenna replied, keeping her voice level. Zaratha has requested formal asylum under Alliance statutes. We are required to process that request before any extradition can occur. Vectora's mandibles spread in clear disdain. Asylum is for the persecuted. Zaratha is being recalled for judgment, not persecution. Your interference violates treaty protocols. With respect, Arbiter, the distinction is for Alliance courts to determine, not Korvathi courts. Princess Zaratha has made credible claims that returning to Korvathi custody would result in summary execution without due process. That meets the threshold for asylum consideration. She is Korvathi. Vectora's voice thundered through the speakers. She answers to Korvathi law. She is also in Alliance space on an Alliance vessel. Jenna countered. And Alliance law protects all persons under its jurisdiction from extrajudicial punishment. She leaned forward. If you believe Princess Zaratha has committed crimes, file formal charges through the appropriate channels. But you will not take her from this ship without proper legal authority. The Arbiter's claws scraped against her armored chest. You risk war over a single broken warrior. I risk nothing, Jenna said. I'm following the law. The same law that governs every species in the Alliance, including the Korvathi matriarchy. She let that sink in. Or are you suggesting that Korvathi honor exists outside the bounds of treaties your matriarch signed? The bridge went dead silent. Even Davis stopped breathing. Jenna had just implied that the Arbiters themselves were acting dishonorably, a profound insult in Korvathi culture. Vecthora's 3 eyes narrowed to slits. You dare question our honor? I dare question your methods, Jenna said. There's a difference. For several heartbeats, the Arbiter said nothing. Then, her mandibles clicked together in a pattern Jenna didn't recognize. You are bold for a human, Vecthora said finally. Too bold. But your words have merit. We will submit formal charges and await adjudication. Her image leaned closer to the screen. But know this, Captain Cortez, if Zaratha has been compromised, if she poses a threat to herself or others, the delay you force upon us may cost lives. That blood will stain your honor, not ours. If Zaratha is a danger, I'll be the first to know, Jenna said. I'm the one sitting with her. The bridge collectively exhaled. Holy shit, Marsh whispered. Captain, you called them dishonorable. To their faces. I implied they might be acting dishonorably, Jenna corrected. Important distinction. She turned to Davis. Get a message to Admiral Park. Tell her we need legal support and we need it yesterday. Already on it, Davis said, but her expression was troubled. Captain, even if the Admiral backs us, 48 hours isn't enough time to process a legitimate asylum claim. The Arbiters will return with proper documentation and we'll have to— I know, Jenna interrupted. Which means we have 48 hours to prove Zaratha isn't compromised. To prove she deserves asylum for real, not just as a stalling tactic. How? Ko asked. We're not psychologists. We're a medical transport crew. Jenna thought about the memorial garden. About Zaratha's claws gently pressing seeds into soil. About the way her voice had broken when she spoke her sister's name. We prove it by showing them who she is now. Not who she was before the colony fell. She stood. Commander, you have the bridge. I need to talk to our princess. She found Zaratha in the observation deck again, but this time the warrior wasn't hunched in the corner. She stood at the viewing port, all 4 hands pressed against the transparent aluminum, watching the Korvathi cruiser hang in the void like a predator waiting for prey. They want to kill me, Zaratha said without turning. They want to judge you, Jenna corrected. There's a difference. Is there? Zaratha's claws scraped against the viewport. I know Arbiter Vecthora. She trained my clutch in close combat. She was, a warrior of absolute conviction. She believes mercy is weakness. She believes grief is corruption. She believes that a princess who survives when her people die is a failure of duty. Do you believe that? Zaratha was silent. Because if you do, Jenna continued, then maybe she's right. Maybe you are compromised. She moved to stand beside the warrior. But if you believe you survive for a reason, if you believe there's still purpose in drawing breath and planting trees and speaking the names of the dead, then you're the strongest person on this ship. I killed 4 of my own crew, Zaratha said softly. When they tried to restrain me during the rescue, I remember their faces. I remember the sound their bones made when Her voice broke. How is that strength? You were in shock, Jenna said. You'd just watched your colony die. You'd lost your sister. Your crew was trying to sedate you, to take away your ability to choose, to make you helpless when you needed to feel anything but helpless. She touched Zarotha's lower right arm gently. You lashed out because you were drowning. That's not weakness. That's survival instinct. Korvathi do not make excuses. I'm not making excuses. I'm acknowledging context. There's a difference. Jenna withdrew her hand. And you know what? You haven't hurt anyone since. Not when the medics sedated you again. Not when you woke in our med bay. Not when security surrounded you. Not when I sat down next to a warrior everyone said was too dangerous to approach. She met Zarotha's 3 eyes. You chose not to hurt me. That's what matters now. Zarotha turned from the viewport. Vectorol will not see it that way. She will say I am unstable. That I pose a threat. That my survival dishonors my crew and my sister and my entire bloodline. Then we prove her wrong. How? By showing her what you showed me, Jenna said. By showing her that you haven't lost yourself to grief. That you're capable of growth and change and choosing life over death. She gestured toward the door. Come with me. There's someone I want you to meet. Zarotha followed warily as Jenna led her through the corridors. Crew members stepped aside, some watching with fear, others with curiosity. Word of the standoff with the Arbiters had spread fast. Everyone knew that the Korvathi princess was the reason a cruiser was parked outside their hull. They stopped at the medical bay. Dr. Sarachin looked up from a datapad, her expression shifting from surprise to caution when she saw Zarotha. Captain, Chen said carefully, what can I do for you? Sarah, this is Princess Zarotha. Zarotha, this is Dr. Chen, our chief medical officer. Jenna looked between them. Sarah, I need you to evaluate Zarotha's mental state. Formal evaluation, full documentation. Everything by the book. Chen's eyes widened. Captain, I'm not a xenopsychologist. I don't have training in Korvathi psychology. You have training in trauma response. You have training in grief. You have training in assessing whether someone is a danger to themselves or others. Jenna kept her voice steady. I need an objective medical opinion. Can she provide that? Chen looked at Zarotha, who stood motionless, her 4 arms hanging at her sides. You understand that anything you tell me will be documented? That I'll have to share my findings with the Arbiters? I understand, Zarotha said. And you consent to this evaluation? I consent. Chen nodded slowly. Okay. Let's start with the basics. She gestured to a medical bed. Have a seat. This might take a while. Jenna turned to leave, but Zarotha's lower left hand shot out, catching her wrist with surprising gentleness. Stay, the warrior said quietly. Please. So Jenna stayed. She sat in a chair against the wall while Dr. Chen conducted the most thorough evaluation she'd ever witnessed. Questions about Zarotha's emotional state. Questions about her memories of the colony. Questions about the crew she killed. Questions about her plans for the future, her relationships with her family, her understanding of right and wrong. Through it all, Zarotha answered with brutal honesty. She didn't hide the rage she felt. Didn't minimize the violence she committed. Didn't pretend the grief had passed or the guilt had faded. But she also talked about the memorial garden. About planting the thorn tree. About her sister who had tended hydroponics and died trying to save plants while fever consumed her body. About the human captain who had sat with her instead of drugging her or locking her away. I do not wish to die, Zarotha said when Chen asked directly. But I do not know how to live with what I have lost. I know only that I must try. That giving up dishonors cure the more than survival ever could. Chen made notes, her stylus moving across the data pad with rapid precision. Princess, I'm going to ask you something difficult. If the Arbiters take you back to the matriarchy, what do you think will happen? Zaratha's mandibles worked silently. They will place me in isolation. They will question me for days, perhaps weeks. They will examine every choice I made, every moment I survived while others died. And, when they conclude their investigation, they will find me guilty of failure of duty. They will strip my rank, my title, my name. And then, they will offer me the Blade of Atonement. Which means ritual suicide, Zaratha said flatly. To die with honor is preferable to living with shame. That is the Korvathi way. And if you refuse, then they will execute me as a traitor. Either way, I die. Jin set down her datapad. That, she said quietly, is exactly the kind of persecution that Asylum is designed to prevent. Jinna's heart hammered in her chest. Dr. Chun, what's your medical opinion? The doctor stood and faced Jinna directly. My medical opinion is that Princess Zaratha exhibits symptoms consistent with acute grief and trauma, but she shows no signs of psychosis, dissociation, or ongoing danger to herself or others. Her violent response during the initial rescue was situationally appropriate given extreme psychological stress. Her subsequent behavior demonstrates clear improvement and adaptive coping mechanisms. She glanced at Zaratha. In short, she's processing trauma in a healthy way. She is not compromised. She's recovering. Can you document that? I already am. Jin picked up her datapad again. I'll have a full report ready in 6 hours, complete with comparative psychology notes from the Alliance database on Korvathi grief responses. She looked at Zaratha again. Princess, for what it's worth, I think what you're doing, facing your grief instead of running from it, takes more courage than most people can imagine. Zaratha's upper arms crossed over her chest. Your words honor me, Doctor. They're not just words, Jin said. They're medical fact. And I'll testify to that in front of any court, Korvathi or otherwise. Jinna felt something tight in her chest ease slightly. Thank you, Sarah. Don't thank me yet, Jin said. We still have to convince the Arbiters. And, from what I understand about Korvathi culture, medical opinions from human doctors aren't exactly held in high regard. Then, we find someone they will regard, Jinna said. She pulled out her comm unit. Marsh, I need you to send a priority message to the Korvathi Diplomatic Corps. Request an immediate consultation with their cultural attaché. Captain, the Arbiters aren't going to let anyone interfere with their... I'm not asking the Arbiters. Jinna interrupted. I'm asking the matriarchy itself. If Zaratha's being judged under Korvathi law, then we need a Korvathi legal expert who can explain whether what they're doing actually follows their own protocols. She paused. And I want that conversation on record. Understood, Captain. I'll send the request. Jinna looked at Zaratha, who had gone very still. What is it? You are invoking formal challenge to the Arbiter's authority, Zaratha said slowly. That is extremely dangerous. If the matriarchy sides with Vecthara, then we'll deal with it, Jinna said. But I'm betting that your mother didn't become matriarch by letting Arbiters execute her daughter without at least asking questions first. Zaratha's 3 eyes blinked in rapid succession, a sign of profound surprise in Korvathi body language. You believe my mother will intervene? I believe she deserves the chance to know what's really happening, Jinna said. Right now, the Arbiters control the narrative. They say you're compromised, and she has to trust their judgment. But if we can get a message directly to her, if we can show her Dr. Chin's evaluation, if we can make her see that you're not broken. She let the sentence hang. She might spare me, Zaratha finished. Or she might condemn me herself to preserve her honor. Which would you prefer? The warrior was silent for a long moment. Then, her mandibles spread in something that might have been a sad smile. I would prefer to plant more trees. But if I must die, I would rather it be by my mother's hand than by Vector's judgment. Then, we make sure you don't die at all, Jenna said fiercely. We make sure you live long enough to see that thorn tree grow. Zaratha's lower hands clenched into fists. Why do you fight so hard for me, human? What do you gain? Nothing, Jenna admitted. Probably a reprimand in my file. Maybe worse. She smiled. But you know what I lose if I don't fight? The knowledge that I stood by and watched someone choose life while her own people demanded death. I lose the ability to look at that memorial garden and believe that any of it matters. She met Zaratha's gaze. I lose the right to say I'm a captain worth following. The warrior reached out with all four hands, placing them on Jenna's shoulders in a gesture of profound respect. You are Pac-Kin now, Jenna Cortez. If I survive this, I will carve your name into my armor beside Kiratha's. And if I do not survive, know that you gave me something I thought I had lost forever. What's that? Hope, Zaratha said simply. Before Jenna could respond, her comm unit chimed. Marsh's voice came through, tight with urgency. Captain, you need to get to the bridge. Now! What happened? The matriarch herself just responded to our message. She wants to speak with you directly. And, Captain? She's not happy. Jenna's stomach dropped. Understood. I'm on my way. She looked at Zaratha. Stay with Dr. Chen. Get some rest if you can. This might be our only shot. Jenna. Zaratha's voice stopped her at the door. My mother is not a gentle ruler. She will not show mercy simply because I am her daughter. If anything, she will be harsher to preserve the appearance of fairness. I know, Jenna said. But she's also a mother who's about to lose her child. And I'm betting that matters more than appearances. She ran for the bridge, her mind racing through a dozen possible scenarios, none of them good. Contacting the matriarch directly was either brilliant or career-ending. Possibly both. The bridge crew snapped to attention when she entered. The view screen showed the symbol of the Korvathi matriarchy, a stylized tree with roots that became claws. Waiting. Ready when you are, Captain, Davis said quietly. Jenna straightened her uniform, took a breath, and nodded. Put her through. The symbol dissolved. The matriarch of the Fifth Fleet filled the screen. She was ancient by Korvathi standards, her armor scarred by centuries of combat, her three eyes dimmed with age, but still sharp as blades. Her four arms were positioned in a stance of absolute authority, and her mandibles were clamped shut, a sign of barely controlled fury. Captain Cortez, the matriarch said, her voice like grinding stone, you have interfered in matters of Korvathi sovereignty. You have questioned the judgment of my arbiters. You have harbored my daughter against the demands of her people. Each word was precisely measured, precisely deadly. Explain yourself before I order my fleet to reduce your vessel to debris. Jenna forced herself to meet those ancient eyes. Matriarch, with all due respect, I followed Alliance law. Your daughter requested asylum. I'm required to. My daughter is a warrior of the Fifth Fleet. The matriarch interrupted. She does not require asylum from her own people. She does if returning to Korvathi custody means death without due process. The matriarch's claws scraped against her armrest. You dare lecture me on Korvathi justice? No, matriarch. I dare ask whether executing your daughter for surviving an atrocity is actually justice, or just tradition wearing justice's armor. The bridge went silent. Even Davis looked like she was about to faint. Jenna had just implied that the matriarch herself might be acting unjustly, an insult that could start wars. But the matriarch didn't roar, didn't threaten. She simply stared at Jenna with those three ancient eyes and said, very quietly, "Continue." Jenna's mouth went dry, but she pushed forward. "Your daughter watched a colony die. She lost her sister. She lost her crew. She was dragged aboard a ship full of aliens while her world burned behind her, and when they tried to sedate her, to take away her agency at the moment she needed it most, she fought back. She leaned toward the screen. Yes, she killed 4 warriors. Yes, she was violent. But she was also drowning. And instead of offering her a hand, the arbiters want to offer her a blade. It is the Korvathi way," the matriarch said. "It's one way," Jenna countered. "But is it the only way? Is it the right way?" She pulled up the file Dr. Chen had sent her. "I have a medical evaluation from our chief medical officer. It states that Zaratha is processing trauma in a healthy manner, that she shows no signs of ongoing psychological compromise, that she's capable of making rational decisions and poses no threat to herself or others. A human doctor's opinion," the matriarch said dismissively. "A doctor who specializes in trauma," Jenna shot back. "A doctor who's seen soldiers from a dozen species cope with loss. A doctor who knows the difference between breakdown and breakthrough." She forwarded the file. "Read it, please." The matriarch was silent, her eyes moving as she scanned the document. Her mandibles worked slowly, processing information that clearly challenged her assumptions. "This doctor claims Zaratha planted a memorial tree," the matriarch said finally. "A thorn tree from our homeworld." "She did," Jenna confirmed. "For her sister. For Kirtha." The ancient warrior's eyes closed briefly. When they opened, something had shifted in her expression. "Kirtha was my youngest, the gentlest of my clutch. She chose the path of growth rather than war." Her claws flexed. "I had not yet received confirmation of her death." "I'm sorry," Jenna said quietly. "Zaratha spoke of her with great love." "Love," the matriarch repeated, as if the word was foreign. "Arbiters do not speak of love. They speak of duty and honor and strength." Her gaze sharpened. "Tell me, Captain Cortez. You have spoken with my daughter at length. You have sat with her. You have planted trees together." The words came slowly, as if she was testing them. "Do you believe she is worthy of life?" Jenna didn't hesitate. "I believe she's one of the worthiest people I've ever met. She's grieving, yes. She's struggling, yes. But she's choosing to face that grief instead of drowning in it. She's choosing to honor the dead by living. And she's choosing to grow something beautiful in the midst of horror." She paused. "That takes more strength than any blade ever could." The matriarch's mandibles spread slightly, an expression of contemplation. "You speak boldly for one who does not know our ways." "I speak as someone who's walked the path your daughter is walking," Jenna said. "I lost my crew. I lost my ship. I lost everyone I cared about in a single attack. And I survived when they didn't." She felt her voice crack but pushed through. "For a long time, I thought survival was shame. Thought I should have died with them. But someone sat with me in the dark. Someone showed me that living could be an act of honor, not an act of cowardice. And I refuse to let Zaratha face that darkness alone when I know there's light on the other side." The matriarch was very still. Then, slowly, she rose from her throne. "Captain Cortez, you have done something remarkable. You have made me question traditions that have stood for millennia. You have made me wonder if perhaps our strength has become rigidity. If our honor has become cruelty." She leaned toward the screen. "I will speak with my daughter. Alone. Arrange a secure channel." "Yes, matriarch." Jenna's heart was racing. "Thank you." "Do not thank me yet," the matriarch said. "If I find that she is truly compromised, I will take her myself." I will not delegate that duty to arbiters. Her ancient eyes held Jenna's gaze. But if you are right, if she has truly chosen life over death, then perhaps it is we who must change. Not her. The connection ended. Jenna slumped into the command chair, suddenly exhausted. Davis approached slowly. Captain, I don't know whether to recommend you for a commendation or a psych evaluation. Both, probably. Jenna muttered. Set up that secure channel. And someone get Zaratha to a private comm room. Tell her. She paused. Tell her it's time to speak with her mother. 30 minutes later, Jenna stood outside the comm room, listening through the door as mother and daughter spoke in their native language. She couldn't understand the words, but she understood the tone. Harsh at first. Defensive. Then softer. Questioning. Wondering. Eventually, the door opened. Zaratha emerged, her 3 eyes gleaming with moisture, Korvathi tears. She looked at Jenna and said simply, She has recalled the arbiters. Jenna felt her knees nearly buckle with relief. She's letting you stay? She is invoking her right as matriarch to personally adjudicate my case. She will arrive in 7 days to conduct a formal inquiry. Zaratha's mandibles spread in a genuine smile. But she has also stated, on official record, that no warrior will be executed for processing grief through peaceful means. That our ways must evolve as our people evolve. That's incredible, Jenna breathed. It is unprecedented, Zaratha corrected. She is risking her authority, her reputation, her very position to protect me. Because of you. The warrior's 4 hands reached out, and Jenna found herself pulled into an embrace that was surprisingly gentle despite the strength behind it. Because you sat with me when I was alone. Because you showed me how to plant trees instead of sharpen claws. I just did what felt right, Jenna said, her voice muffled against Zaratha's armored chest. You did what was necessary, Zaratha said. And now, perhaps, my people will learn to do the same. They stood there for a moment, human and Korvathi, captain and princess, 2 survivors who had found each other in the darkness and chosen light. Come on, Jenna said finally, pulling back. We've got a week before your mother arrives. Let's make sure that Thorntree is growing strong. They returned to the memorial garden together. The soil above Karatha's seeds was already showing the first hints of green, tiny shoots pushing toward the artificial sunlight. Zaratha knelt beside the planter, her claws tracing the edges of the memorial plaque. She would have liked this, Zaratha said softly. Like knowing that even in death, she helped something grow. She'd be proud of you, Jenna said. Would she? Zaratha looked up. I killed 4 warriors in my madness. I dishonored my crew. You survived, Jenna interrupted. And you chose to keep surviving. That's what she'd be proud of. Zaratha's mandibles clicked together softly. You truly believe that? I know it, Jenna said. Because I knew someone like Kirtha. Her name was Claire. She was a doctor. She believed that every life was worth saving, even when the ones she was saving were running away and leaving her behind. Jenna crouched beside Zaratha. When I made it to the escape pod, the last thing I heard on the comms was her voice. She was singing. Some old Earth song about flowers and sunshine. Singing while the ship broke apart around her. Why would she sing? Because she wanted the last thing we heard to be beautiful, Jenna said. Because even at the end, she believed in growth and life and hope. She touched the green shoots gently. Your sister was the same. She stayed with her plants. She kept working even as the fever took her. Because that's who she was. And you honor her by being who you are, a warrior strong enough to plant seeds. Zaratha was quiet for a long time. Then she began to sing, a deep, rumbling melody in her native language, words that spoke of roots and thorns and storms that made trees stronger. It was a planting song, Jenna realized. A song Korbathi farmers had sung for millennia when setting seeds in the harsh red deserts of their homeworld. Other crew members began to gather at the garden entrance, drawn by the sound. Dr. Chen, Commander Davis, Ensign Marsh, Lieutenant Ko. One by one, they entered the garden and stood in respectful silence, watching as a Korbathi princess sang life into the memory of her dead. When the song ended, Zaratha stood and turned to face the assembled crew. "You are all witness," she said formally. "I, Zaratha of the Fifth Fleet, daughter of the matriarch, declare that this crew has given me sanctuary not through law but through compassion. You have shown me that strength takes many forms, that growth is not weakness, that choosing life in the face of death is the greatest courage any warrior can possess." Her 3 eyes blazed. "When my mother arrives, I will tell her this. I will tell her that humans are not soft, as we believed. They are strong in ways we have forgotten how to be." "We're not that special," Jenna said. "We're just people trying to get by. You are people who sit with the broken instead of casting them aside," Zaratha countered. "You are people who plant trees for the dead and give hope to the living. That is strength beyond measure." Davis stepped forward, her expression formal. "Princess Zaratha, on behalf of the crew of the sanctuary, I want to say that it has been an honor to have you aboard. And, regardless of what your matriarchy decides, you will always have a place on this ship if you want it." The other crew members murmured agreement. Zaratha looked around at all the human faces, her mandibles working in clear emotion. "I accept," she said finally. "When the inquiry is complete, when my honor is judged, and my fate decided, I ask that I be allowed to return here, to tend this garden, to watch the thorn tree grow." She looked at Jenna. "To sit with those who understand that survival is not shame." "Done," Jenna said. "Your crew now. That means your family." Zaratha's claws clicked together in a gesture of profound gratitude. "Family," she repeated, tasting the word. "Yes, I think Kirtha would like that." The crew dispersed slowly, leaving Jenna and Zaratha alone in the garden once more. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the memorial plaques glint in the artificial sunlight, each one a name, each one a life, each one proof that something could grow from loss. "What happens now?" Zaratha asked eventually. "Now we wait," Jenna said. "We document everything. We prepare for your mother's arrival. We make sure everyone knows exactly what happened here and why it matters." She smiled. "And we water that thorn tree every day until it's strong enough to survive on its own. And after the inquiry? After?" Jenna looked at the warrior, at the princess, who had chosen to plant seeds instead of sharpen her claws for battle. "After you live, you grow. You help others who are drowning in the dark, because you know what it's like to find light." She stood and offered her hand. "After, you teach your people what you learned here. That mercy and strength aren't opposites. That grief and honor can coexist. That the greatest warriors are the ones who know when to set down their weapons and pick up a seed." Zaratha took the offered hand and rose to her full towering height. "You ask much of me, Captain Cortez. I ask no more than you asked of yourself when you chose to live," Jenna said. "The rest is just details." The warrior's mandibles spread in a smile. "Then I will meet these details with courage, with hope, with the knowledge that I am not alone. Never alone," Jenna promised. "That's what it means to be crew." They walked out of the garden together, leaving behind the memorial plaques and the growing things and the promise of thorns that would protect the next person who needed shelter from the storm. 7 days later, the matriarch arrived. The inquiry was formal, exhaustive, and witnessed by representatives from a dozen alliance species. Zaratha stood before her mother and the assembled court, recounting everything that had happened from the moment the plague bombs fell to the moment she planted the thorn tree. She spoke of her rage, her violence, her grief, and she spoke of the human captain who had sat with her in the darkness and shown her that there was more than one way to be strong. The matriarch listened in silence. Then she rose from her seat and approached her daughter. For a moment, Jenna thought she might strike her. Instead, the ancient warrior placed all four hands on Zaratha's shoulders. "You have shown me," the matriarch said, her voice carrying through the chamber, "that our traditions can evolve without losing their meaning. That honor includes the courage to grow, not just the courage to die. That strength sometimes means setting down the blade and picking up the seed." She paused. "I declare the inquiry concluded. Princess Zaratha is cleared of all charges. She will retain her rank, her title, and her place in our fleet." A murmur ran through the assembled witnesses. Corvathi law had just changed, shaped by a warrior who chose to plant trees. The matriarch turned to Jenna. "Captain Cortez, you have given my people a gift we did not know we needed. You have shown us that compassion is not weakness, that mercy is not defeat, that sitting with someone in their darkness is an act of profound courage." She inclined her head, a gesture of respect from a ruler to an equal. "You have my gratitude and my friendship." Jenna bowed. "The honor is mine, matriarch." "No," the ancient warrior said. "The honor is ours." Weeks later, long after the matriarchy's fleet had departed and life on the sanctuary had returned to something resembling normal, Jenna found herself back in the memorial garden. The thorn tree had grown half a meter, its branches already developing the wicked spines that would protect it from predators. Zaratha tended it carefully, her four hands working the soil with practiced ease. "You're really staying?" Jenna asked, though she already knew the answer. "I am assigned as cultural liaison between the Corvathi fleet and Alliance vessels," Zaratha said. "My first duty station is here, on the sanctuary. My mother's orders." She looked at Jenna with all three eyes. I suspect she knew I would not have accepted any other posting. Clever of her. "She is matriarch for a reason," Zaratha said. She stood, brushing dirt from her claws. "The thorns are growing well. Strong. Sharp. Ready to protect those who shelter beneath." Jenna touched one of the developing spines gently. "Kirtha would be proud." "She would be laughing," Zaratha corrected. "She always said I was too much warrior, not enough farmer. Now look at me." Her mandibles spread in a smile. "Perhaps she knew I would need to learn this lesson eventually." "Maybe," Jenna said. "Or maybe she just knew you were strong enough to learn it." They stood together in the garden, human and Corvathi, captain and princess, two survivors who had found each other in the darkness and planted something that would outlive them both. Around them, the memorial plants grew strong, each one a testament to the truth that life could spring from loss, that hope could bloom from grief, that the greatest strength of all was the courage to sit with someone and say, "You are not alone." And, in the corner of the garden, beneath artificial sunlight and tended by careful claws, a thorn tree from a distant red desert reached toward the stars, growing thorns sharp enough to protect and roots deep enough to endure, a living reminder that even the deadliest warrior could choose to nurture life instead of dealing death. The ship hummed around them, carrying them through the void toward whatever came next. But for this moment, in this garden, with these names carved in metal and planted in soil, they had everything they needed. They had each other. They had purpose. They had proof that mercy and strength were not opposites, but partners in the eternal work of turning darkness into light. And They had a thorn tree growing strong.